Good afternoon. Sorry. At this time, I will call the meeting to order, and I'm going to ask the clerk to introduce the board members to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The board members for this afternoon are our chairman, Mr. Gar Beacom, and we have board members Mr. Roger Taylor, Mr. Byrne Damond, Mr. Brad Myers, and Mr. Brian Saltman, with Councillor John McAllister representing council today, and myself, Melanie Michaud, the Subdivision and Development Appeal Board Clerk. Does anyone have any objections to the board members this afternoon? Seeing none, I turn it back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I'm going to outline our procedures for the afternoon. First, I'm going to ask the clerk to introduce the appeals into the minutes. Then we will get a presentation from the municipal representative, the applicants, and or the appellant, anyone acting on behalf of the appellant, then anyone who wishes to support the appeal, and then finally anyone in opposition to the appeal. After each presentation, the board members will be given the opportunity to ask questions, and then finally there will be a time for board members in particular to get points clarified of anyone that's involved in the hearing. But similarly at that time, anyone that is involved in the hearing can ask questions through the chair of anyone else that's involved in the hearing. It doesn't matter whether your presentations are oral or written, just as long as we get all the information that we need to make our decision. Even if we're privy to information that's been presented elsewhere in the county, unless it's reintroduced here in the hearing, we cannot use it in making our decision. So I emphasize that you make sure that we know everything that we need to know. When you're making your presentation, we'd ask that you give your name at the first time there so that we know who you are and it's in the minutes in the proper fashion. Sorry. I'm just having all these things I'm looking at and see what I've forgotten, which I don't think I've forgotten anything so far. So with that, I would ask the clerk to introduce the appeals into the minutes.
This appeal is against the refusal of subdivision application F2001-06 on a portion of Southwest 06-20-01 west of the 5th Meridian. The appellants are Mr. and Mrs. Canario, as represented by Ms. Robin Erhardt of Township Planning and Design. And the grounds for this appeal were submitted to and reviewed by the board prior to the hearing. Please note that this appeal hearing is being live streamed and will be available for viewing on the county's website upon completion of the hearing. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Just before we go to the hearing proper, I'd ask, as you can see, we've got a lot of people here today, and several people are registered to present. So if you could keep your presentations short, that would be great. And in particular, if you can be acknowledged that you are saying something that's already been said, then that would simplify matters too. So with that, I would go to the municipal representative, Ms. Fernell.
All right. Good afternoon. My name is Carrie Furnell, and I am the Planning and Development Officer with Foothills County, and will be speaking on behalf of the municipality, providing the background for the appeal in front of you today. Also with me are Teresa Chipchase, Foothills County Development Officer. We have Mr. Patrick Ental, Public Works Engineering Technologist with Foothills County on Zoom, and representing council, Councillor John Callister. For an overview of my presentation, before I begin, I'll provide the board with an overview of the land use and subdivision proposals that were refused by council, and council sitting as the subdivision approving authority, leading into the refusal that led to the appeal, following with the policy that formulated the municipality's decision. The subject property is located in Division 2 and accessed from 96th Street West. It is north of 434th Avenue West and 5 kilometers east of the town of Diamond Valley, as shown on the map on the screen by the red star. The land use application provided to council as the land use authority is shown on the site plan on the screen. This application proposed an amendment to the Country Residential District Land Use Bylaw, and if approved by council, was to facilitate the future subdivision of 2 5-acre lots and 1 10-acre balance parcel. The application for an amendment to the Country Residential District Land Use Rules was refused by council on March 4th, 2026. As the Subdivision and Development Appeal Board only has authority to make a decision on a subdivision application, the appellants submitted their subdivision application requesting the subdivision approving authority consider the subdivision of what was to be 2 country residential district lots. The application for an amendment to the Country Residential Land Use Rules to allow for the future subdivision of 1 4.67 acre and 1 5.72 acre country residential district parcels, leaving a 9.61 acre country residential district balance parcel was refused. Council is of the opinion that the application does not adequately address the intent of the South Saskatchewan Regional Plan, as it proposes further built environment in an area not proposed for increased growth and development. The residential section of the Municipal Development Plan 2010, the application does not adequately address the intent of the residential policies with respect to the cumulative effects of development, suitability of the subject lands for further development, and the compatibility with the surrounding large agricultural district parcels. The proposal is not consistent with the growth objectives of the South Central District as identified in the Growth Management Strategy, and does not meet the requirements of Section 13.1.6.1 of the Land Use Bylaw. An amendment approval must be given prior to subdivision approval. Several changes were made to the subdivision application shown on the image marked in red. They include a proposed new building envelopes, an access right-of-way from the common approach along the panhandle to a point where access to the south parcel may be achieved, and a proposed road acquisition area for a cul-de-sac turnaround on 96th Street. There is one existing approach from 96th Street West, which is proposed to be widened into a common approach for access to both the proposed 4.67 acre parcel and the 5.72 acre parcel via two 15-meter wide panhandles. A new standard approach is proposed to be constructed from 96th Street West for access to the balance parcel. The approximate locations for these approaches are shown on the image below by the red arrows. In response to the land use public hearing, the applicant is proposing a road acquisition on 96th Street for a proper turnaround affecting the applicant's property. This will address the lack of room for large vehicles, such as buses and emergency vehicles, to turn around. Please note, Public Works has no concerns with the new standard approach location for the balance parcel, but notes that it will need to be constructed to current municipal standards. They also have no issues with the proposed location of the common approach for the proposed parcels, noting that a minimum 15-meter separation is required to adjacent approaches and a maximum grade of 2% from the road to the property line. As the proposed panhandles contain slopes which appear greater than 15%, Public Works suggests an engineered driveway plan. It will need to encompass from 96th Street West to the building envelopes. Engineered building envelopes are required as the proposed lots appear to contain slopes of 15% or greater. If these are to be included in the building envelope, a slope stability analysis will be required. Otherwise, building envelopes will need to be set back 30 meters from the top of the slope. Alternately, the applicant can provide a grading plan demonstrating the slopes are less than 15%. The picture on the left shows the existing access to the balance parcel. The picture on the right shows the proposed access to the common approach for the two newly proposed 5-acre parcels. That switch. The picture on the left shows the existing access to the balance parcel. That didn't switch. The picture on the right shows the proposed access to the common approach for the two newly proposed 5-acre parcels. To give the board an overall picture of the appellant's lands, the parcel is situated on an elevated hilltop with a varied landscape consisting of dense tree stands interspersed with open grassland areas. The balance property features elevation changes and is predominantly covered with a mixed tree canopy, offering consistent vegetation coverage across the parcel. The proposed parcels largely exhibit mild rolling hills and are characterized primarily by open grasslands with limited tree cover and broad unobstructed sightlines. It should be noted there are slopes in excess of 15% on the property, primarily on the easternmost proposed parcel. Public Works has acknowledged that a slope stability report will be required for any slopes in excess of 15%. All existing development on this subject property is located within the balance parcel and consists of a dwelling, primary, shown in purple, a secondary suite, detached, approved under development permit 24D054, shown in blue, a garage, shown in orange, a covered pole barn to be removed, shown in yellow with a red X, a sea can, as shown in aquamarine, a bus shelter to be removed as shown in green with a red X, a shed shown in pink, a greenhouse shown in green, a hay shed to be removed shown with a red X, a shed shown in red. The existing dwellings are serviced via on-site water well shown with a green circle and septic system shown outlined in orange. If the Subdivision and Appeal Board approves the subdivision as proposed, a development permit application will be required for a relaxation for the secondary suite, as it will not meet the setback requirement of 15 meters to the south property line. A development permit application is also required to be submitted for the existing sea can. For an overview of the timeline bringing us to today's appeal hearing, the application for subdivision was provided by the appellant on April 9th, 2026, and deemed to be complete on April 17th. The application was circulated to agencies, including those required by the province, for 30 days on April 21st. The application for subdivision was provided to the subdivision approving authority on July 8th and was refused. The appellant appealed to the Subdivision and Development Appeal Board on July 24th. As previously discussed, the subdivision was refused on July 8th. The decision was rendered addressing the South Saskatchewan Regional Plan, as well as the county's statutory documents, which are its Municipal Development Plan and the Land Use Bylaw, outlining the cumulative effects of the development, suitability of the subject lands for further development, and the compatibility with the surrounding large agricultural district parcels. This leads me to discuss the policy which formed the basis of the decision of Council as the Land Use Authority, which led to the refusal of the subdivision, with the understanding that today's hearing is to determine whether or not the Subdivision and Development Appeal Board will consider upholding, overturning, or revising the decision of the Subdivision Approving Authority regarding the subdivision refusal. With respect to the South Saskatchewan Regional Plan, land is used efficiently to reduce the amount of area that is taken up by permanent or long-term developments associated with the built environment. Land is a limited, non-renewable resource, and so it should not be wasted. Land use decisions should strive to reduce disturbances on Alberta's landscape. The municipality also considers the application does not adequately address the intent of residential policy with respect to the cumulative effects of the development and the compatibility with the surrounding large agricultural district parcels. Further, the Subdivision Approval Authority's decision noted the residential policies within the statutory municipal development plan, which provide that the application does not adequately address the intent of the residential policies with respect to the cumulative effects of the development, suitability of the subject lands for further development, and the compatibility with the surrounding large agricultural district parcels. With the respect to the county's land use bylaw, and specifically section 13.1.6.1, the board is to be aware a land use bylaw amendment must first be granted approval in order to subdivide land in this district into additional lots. No amendment to the land use bylaw was approved for this potential subdivision. In closing, Foothills County Land Use Bylaw does not provide a definition of cumulative effects. The Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines a cumulative effect as an effect produced by something happening over a long period of time. In considering this definition, is it reasonable to recognize that neighboring landowners may have concerns regarding the potential cumulative effect of development in this area? However, the board must also consider whether there is evidence demonstrating that the proposed development, either on its own or in combination with other existing or approved developments, would result in material adverse impacts that extend beyond normal expectations for the district. Regarding this application for subdivision, one must consider, is it reasonable to allow for 2 more houses, 2 more water wells, 2 more septic systems, potentially 2 more secondary suites, more driveway, and more traffic? This concludes my presentation. I will now ask Councillor Callister if there's anything that he would like to add at this time.
Thank you, Ms. Fresnel, and through the chair to the floor. Yeah, I went back and rewatched the hearing of that day, March 4th, when this was first refused. General consensus in council was that having the side-by-side driveways stretch for over a quarter mile each. My personal view was not a good use of the land to start with. And I drove up there and had a look around, very hilly. I would worry about access for emergency vehicles year round, given the terrain and the just the slopes that are there. Those were the first couple things that came to mind. Mentioned over and over again during that hearing was the fact that council and residents would have probably been more amicable to one lot being taken out, which would also negate the, I believe, negate the need for setback forgiveness on for the secondary suite, as well as the CCAN. So those are basically the reasons it was denied in council at that time. That's about all I have to add at this moment.
Thank you. At this time, I'd let the board have the opportunity to ask questions of both the municipal rep as well as Mr. Callister. Board members, Mr. Saltman.
Mr. Chairman, we were showing a map with a lot of contours on it. I'm kind of wondering what the scale of those contours are, because we're dealing with some slope here, and I just wondered what the scale for the contours was, if the planning department has that.
I believe those are 1 meter contours. Mrs. Earhart can probably confirm that, but that's our understanding, is that they are 1 meter.
Further questions, board? Mr. Damon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a question for the Development Authority, and a member of council could also comment if he chooses to. I was just wondering if there was any requirement of potable water on anywhere where these sites are proposed, and yeah, that's my question for now. Thanks.
Yes, so there's always a requirement for proof of water. So that is probably in the conditions that were provided to the board by Ms. Fernell. You'll see that it's listed that proof of water is a requirement for the 2 new lots, and possibly a Q20 on the balance as well. There's probably more than 5 subdivisions out of the quarter section, I would believe. So yes, proof of water is required.
Mr. Chairman, there was other water well drilled, and it's been proven on that site or not, or it's actually a condition?
There's no water
sub-
this time for the 2 new lots. That would be a condition of if the board chooses to overturn the decision today, that would be a condition that would need to be added to the board order, that they provide proof of water for both those new lots, and that a Q20 report is provided for the existing well on the balance.
Mr. Myers.
Thank you. A question to the chair, to the municipal representatives. Do we know what's being done with that part of the property at this point? Like it was explained that it's grassland and whatnot. Is it actively being pastured or cut as hay or anything like that?
That is correct. It's currently grassland being used as pasture.
Further questions, board? Being none, we would hear from Ms. Earhart representing the applicant.
Hello, everyone. Thank you through the chair. My name is Robin Earhart. I'm with Township Planning and Design. I'm here today on behalf of Nuno and Cherie Canario with regards to the appeal of the subdivision refusal. So with us today, we have Nuno and Cherie who will be providing a statement, as well as Delilah Miller as part of our team, as part of our submissions to the board. So I will review the application and the history without reiterating too much of what Ms. Furnell has already stated. We'll also review the proposed site plan and details, an engagement summary, alignment with the policy and regulations, and some mitigation measures that are being proposed and offered. So as you know, the application was first refused for land use by council on March 4th, which led to us submitting the subdivision application, which was refused on July 8th. And these are the reasons that council gave. We've reiterated them here, as a lot of our policy assessment will be in response to these reasons of refusal. First, I'll start with some of the location and context. So this is located in the South Central District, where moderate growth and clustered development is supported. It's approximately 6 kilometers east of the town of Diamond Valley boundary and located along 96th Street, which supports several country residential developments and connects directly to Highway 7. This is on a quarter section with an established pattern of fragmentation and fragmentation further north along 96th. This application does align with the MDP, which directs subdivision to previously fragmented areas. It is contextually appropriate with the surrounding residential uses and the existing fragmentation. It results in 7 parcels on that southwest quarter section if these 2 parcels were allowed to be subdivided, which is far less than the 32 parcels allowed in the land use bylaw, which is a maximum of 32 on a quarter section. The application proposes country residential infill. There are 2 new country residential lots being created from an existing country residential parcel. It diverts subdivision away from agricultural land and to the existing country residential land use base in the county. We are also proposing dedications of a road acquisition for a cul-de-sac at the end of 96 to allow for this future turnaround, as well as a right-of-way to provide for future access that I will elaborate on in a moment. The application aligns with the land use bylaw requirements for country residential development, and it has suitable developable areas for these single-family dwellings. It sensitively integrates with the existing country residential context and development and does not pose an impact to the adjacent agricultural land or operations. So specific to the access, I won't go through this too much, as I know Ms. Furnell has highlighted it as well, but there will be a new approach off of 96th to the balance parcel that will be built to county standards. And then the existing approach will be widened to be a common approach that will provide access to the 2 panhandles so that both lots 1 and 2 have legal physical access. We're proposing this road dedication for a cul-de-sac, so it would be dedicated and registered on title, that it would be converted into a cul-de-sac in the future for turnaround of emergency vehicles and buses. Now, the right-of-way that is proposed here is runs from 96th east to a point where access to the south may be achieved for the benefit of future subdivision in the area. So you can see that is this sort of darker yellow here that would be registered as an access right of way. It would allow the county to take that land should a public road be needed to be constructed in the future, and it provides access for long-term planning purposes in the area. We'd also like to note that Public Works did not request a transportation impact assessment and had no concerns about traffic along 96th Street. The proposal of 2 additional lots is a minor increase in terms of the amount of traffic that is on the country residential roads, and it would represent part of the background traffic of about 2.5% that is expected to occur year over year, regardless of additional developments. So these 2 new lots represent this moderate growth in existing country residential area. It is not adding to the country residential land use base. The lot is already designated country residential, and we're proposing to more efficiently utilize that country residential land to support sustainable development in the county. The county's GIS team has done an assessment of the land use percentages, and they've concluded that 91.5% of the land in the county is still agricultural, and that has not changed from 2020. From 2020 to 2025, those percentages have remained the same, with 5.6% of the land being residential, and this application does not change those statistics. So this is a way to preserve the agricultural land base and direct infill development to existing country residential areas. So Ms. Furnell has gone through this as well, and I won't reiterate it too much, but there is existing development on the balance parcel. And the pole barn, bus shelter, and hay shed will be removed. The CCAN is to stay, and a development permit will be provided. We also note that there will be a setback relaxation required for the secondary suite that will be provided through a development permit. And there is a requirement to request an additional accessory building. Under the table 4.2.1.7a, we're allowed up to 4 accessory buildings without a development permit, and we'd be requesting for 5 to remain. I would also like to note that these would the requirement to submit a development permit would be conditions of subdivision, and would be something that could comply with for compliance of the parcel. So the image on the left here is where the existing approach to the site is. 96th Street is a municipal road of a maintainable road oil surface. It's not a gravel road, and it is suitable and supports the rural residential development in the area. The second image is a view of the proposed location for the panhandles looking east. This is partway up the property, and it indicates that 30-meter wide space suitable for 2 15-meter panhandles. Public Works has recommended the engineered driveways, and these will be designed as required to the county's to the engineered driveway standard. The county doesn't have a driveway standard for typical driveways, so the engineering plan will make sure that it is designed to be suitable for access. The third picture is a view looking northeast at the top of the ridge, and this is the approximate proposed building envelope area for Lot 1, and I'll review some more of those images in a minute. For servicing with regards to water wells, there will be, both lots are proposed to be serviced by individual groundwater wells and private on-site septic systems. The proposed lots do have a suitable area to allow for the septic treatment system, house, and a well. And the balance will maintain the water well and septic system. The reconnaissance report for the area, which is a summary of all the groundwater wells that have been drilled in the area and is in your evidence package, demonstrates that the average static level of water in the area has been recharging to suitable levels, which means when there is a drawdown, it has been recharging and coming back. And that there's an average test rate that is suitable for domestic purposes. The average here is about 6.38. We also want to note that under the Water Act, each landowner has the equal opportunity and right to prove water as part of their subdivision before development commences. So the Canarios would be required to provide a assessment and a report that demonstrates that there is water suitable for domestic purposes and that it doesn't negatively impact the users in the area. There is a new house on the ridge, and there's a letter in your package as well from the neighbors to the north. They've successfully drilled a well on that ridge, and we request that the Canarios be given the same opportunity to prove water. Prior to submitting the land use application, the landowners, the Canarios did speak with 9 immediate neighbors, and they received no opposition or no requests for additional conversations about the site plans. And then it was refused at the land use hearing, and there were a number of letters that you also have in your application today. So now regarding the subdivision application, up to today, we had received indications of support from 3 landowners. We had received 3 letters of rejection, or 4 letters of rejection, actually, as of last night, that you also have in your package. And then blue X's indicate 2 areas that we had not been able to speak with. And there are more than or in attendance at the hearing today, there are additional landowners willing to speak in support. So now we'll review some of the applicable legislation and the policy as it relates to the proposed subdivision. So first, with regards to council's reasons of refusal that it doesn't meet the general intent of the SSRP. First off, the SSRP identifies binding and non-binding sections, and case law has established that only the regulatory details of the SSRP are binding. The non-binding portions of the SSRP are not intended to have a legal binding effect and are statements of policy to inform decision makers and local government bodies. So the sections of the SSRP that speak to built environment and increased growth and development are in the non-binding sections of the SSRP in the implementation plan and strategic plan. So council's reasons for refusal did not reference specific policies or regulations of the SSRP. It generally states that the application does not comply, which we will demonstrate is in fact not the case. And it is vague and unsubstantiated. With regards to efficient use of land, which is section 5, and it's in the non-binding section. So while these are not legally binding, it is still important to demonstrate how the application aligns with the policies and intents of the SSRP. So the objective of this section is to minimize the amount of land that is transitioned to the built environment over time. The strategy is that all land use planners and decision makers are encouraged to consider the efficient use of land principles in land use planning and decision making. And then it has efficient use of land principles. And these principles are focused on reducing the rate of which land is converted from an undeveloped state into a permanent built environment. The proposed subdivision is in an area that is already fragmented. It's already a country residential parcel that could support development. So the application is proposing to more efficiently utilize that existing country residential land use space and allow country residential infill. Number 2 is about minimizing the amount of land necessary for new development and to build at a higher density than current practice to allow for this, to achieve this efficient use of land principle. And that's exactly what this application does. We are proposing parcel sizes that are slightly smaller than the balance and others in the area to minimize the land that it's dedicated to each new lot, which represents a suitable density for the area while efficiently utilizing that parcel and diverting development away from agricultural land. So this principle is intended to basically see more people and uses on less amount of land while still being contextually appropriate. And that's what we have proposed with the subdivision design. 3 is to increase the proportion of new development that takes place within already developed or disturbed lands, either through infill redevelopment and shared use, relative new development that takes place on previously undeveloped land. Again, that is precisely what we are proposing here. Is the application promotes infill development, which is the term used in the SSRP, on previously developed land that is already designated country residential to promote a moderate growth. And number 4 is to plan these new developments in a manner that best utilizes existing infrastructure and minimizes the need for expanded infrastructure. So the existing road infrastructure of 96 will be used. There's not a requirement for additional municipal infrastructure or upgrades and expansions. We are identifying a road dedication for a turnaround there to support a more efficient and safe turnaround at the end of 96th, but it does not require additional infrastructure. With regards to community development in the SSRP, this relates a little bit more to integrating with agricultural land. And the SSRP notes that you must identify areas where agricultural activities and associated activities should be the primary land use in the region. And the growth management strategy and the land use bylaw do achieve that. And the growth management strategy then identifies the South Central District as supporting moderate growth. And the land use bylaw notes that this parcel is already country residential. You're supposed to limit the fragmentation of agricultural lands. The parcel is country residential, not agricultural, so we align with that policy intent. And the growth management strategy then considers this district to be the most diverse mix of uses. And the subject quarter section was allowed to subdivide previously into 4 lots, limiting its agricultural sort of future in proximity to country residential development. And finally, we're to employ appropriate planning tools to direct non-agricultural subdivision and development to areas where such development will not constrain agricultural activities or to areas of lower quality agricultural lands. The application is on a fragmented quarter section, and it includes several mitigation measures to ensure that it does not conflict with the surrounding large agricultural parcels. The MDP's residential and agricultural protection policies direct fragmentation to the areas such as this that are already fragmented. And the South Central District is already characterized by a lot of these country residential and agricultural interfaces, and it doesn't impede the agricultural businesses and their ability to operate. I'll direct you also to a case study or case law of Shake versus the Land and Property Rights Tribunal, where the courts determined that compliance with the municipal development plan inherently applied alignment with the SSRP, and that the components of the SSRP that contain discussion regarding efficient use of land and suitability are non-binding. I will review the MDP and the land use bylaw to demonstrate this hierarchy of compliance. Following that court decision, they were redirected back to the LPRT for another appeal and another appeal hearing. And at that rehearing, the LPRT allowed the appeal for the 2 additional lots and found that the subdivision would not offend the SSRP and MDP policies aimed at conserving undisturbed agricultural land in this case, because the subject land is in a previously subdivided quarter section that is not used for agriculture and is designated country residential in the Foothills County Land Use Bylaw, which is a similar case of what we are facing today in that it is already country residential and would not offend or is in compliance with the SSRP and MDP. In consideration of the residential section of the MDP, so we note that council did make reference to the residential section, and we would suggest that we do align with the policies of the residential section, particularly 3.1 and 3.4 here, where there is no impact on the agricultural industry, as it demonstrates an efficient use of land on a parcel that's already CR. It proposes 2 new private water wells for household purposes only, which they are allowed to prove under the Water Act and does not impose a significant increase that is not contextually appropriate. The area is suitable for residential uses as well. Even just noting that the parcel is already designated country residential in the land use bylaw suggests that the parcel is suitable for country residential development. It utilizes existing infrastructure. It provides a suitable development area within the proposed lots, and It integrates within the rural community context, and Public Works had no concerns with the proposed development and did not recommend any additional studies aside from the lot grading plan to determine suitable building envelopes. And if that lot grading plan determines slopes over 15%, then slope stability studies would be required. But those are studies that are to be done at subsequent phases to demonstrate this suitability. Now, with regards to the cumulative effects of development, there is a definition in the municipal development plan of the combined effects of past, present, and reasonably foreseeable land use activities over time on the environment. However, the MDP doesn't contain a definition of or tools to determine what a negative cumulative effect is, and the council gave no indication of how the development would have negative cumulative impacts. It simply stated it doesn't align with this policy, but gave no further information on why or how or what that looks like. Similarly, there were no concerns from Public Works in terms of the cumulative effects of developments or any impacts, and the agencies, there were no circulation comments received from agencies such as Alberta Transportation or Alberta Environment that would suggest that there were negative impacts. It aligns with policy 3.8 as well in terms of servicing the development with the municipal road. 96th Street already exists and is suitable to provide access to the proposed subdivision. Again, Public Works had no concerns with the traffic on 96. They supported the two approaches on the 96th Street and they supported the common approach and only had a recommendation for an engineer driveway for both proposed lots. And again, I'll point you to some case law about the cumulative effects of development. So in the Reichdahl decision with regard to cumulative effects, they noted that the MGB finds that the subdivision authority did not specify what the concerns are. The proposed subdivision complies with the density provisions of the planning documents, including the direction of development within the growth management strategy. Alberta Transportation didn't raise any traffic concerns, thus the MGB find no evidence illustrating that the proposed subdivision would have a cumulative negative effect. Similarly, the refusal of the Canario subdivision did not specify concerns about cumulative effects, and there's no evidence provided that would suggest that this application would have these net negative cumulative effects. As I mentioned, Public Works had no concerns, Alberta Transportation, Alberta Environment, and no other agencies raised any concerns about what these negative impacts could be. The parcels are not subject to any specific restrictions as outlined in the municipal development plan. They align with section 9.2 as well about water and soils being suitable. The application proposes the same type of construction already seen on the ridge on adjacent parcels where they have proven water and successfully developed and they have driveways up to this ridge. We recognize that there are different conditions, but there are studies that are required to prove this water under the Water Act, and we request that the Canarios be given the opportunity to prove water and meet these policy requirements. Based on our assessments of the slopes, the proposed building envelopes do not contain any slopes over 15%, but still a lot grading plan will be provided as a condition of subdivision to confirm. And it does meet the requirements of the country residential district in terms of setbacks and density under the land use bylaw. I'll point you again to another case study here about country residential infill, in that in the Shake versus Foothills County decision, where the subdivision authority refused the application because it would result in a built environment in an area where the SSRP and MDP aim to limit growth and development. Now, the LPRT in this case agreed that the SSRP and MDP aim to limit growth in the broader area and in the large part to preserve agricultural land. However, both are high-level policy documents providing broad direction covering large areas, and neither document prohibits additional residential development. In this case, the specific corridor with the subject land and much of its immediate surroundings are not districted for agricultural use. Rather, they are in the land use bylaws country residential district and are already fragmented. As such, the property is not in an agricultural use and has little agricultural potential. The proposed subdivision does not convert agricultural land to residential use. And they also noted that the appellant and I'll just start here, that the LPRT observes the SSRP and MDP are consistent in directing that efficient use of land includes infilling and redeveloping already fragmented land. The MDP also contains specific instruction to direct country residential development towards already fragmented areas. The policy intent behind this direction is evident. Further subdividing already fragmented land can absorb pressure on an area for residential development without converting yet more agricultural land. So in essence, country residential infill protects the agricultural land and represents an efficient use of land in the county and is supported by the MDP and the SSRP. The application also aligns with the growth management strategy in that it's in the South Central District where moderate growth and development, particularly in locations where there is infrastructure, is supported. It also supports clustered developments where appropriate in the South Central District. And the SSRP actually also indicates that clustered residential development is a suitable way to efficiently use land where you direct a higher number of residences on a smaller number or a smaller area of land to promote this efficient use and to maximize infrastructure and land. With regards to preserving rural character and scenic vistas, so the first point here is to support the identification of critical vistas in the MD. So the county has not identified any critical vistas in this area, and the views are not protected by policy or by legislation. Regardless, the proposed lots have been intentionally designed to have building envelopes that protect and preserve the vistas for neighbors that will be registered on title through a restrictive covenant to prohibit building in those areas. All developments must comply with the dark sky bylaw and the community standards bylaw, and this would be no exception to that. The landowners wish to experience the same views that their neighbors benefit from and are willing to work with the county and their neighbors to do so respectfully. The lots are contextually appropriate and they maintain the rural character of the area and align with that South Central District mix of uses in the rural setting. In the MGB order 00319 of Brooke versus Foothills County, the MGB found that the proposal complied with the intent of the SSRP and growth management strategy. The proposal was for an infill CR lot that represented the efficient use of land, allowing for development without fragmenting lands. They also indicated that the language of the GMP, which was the growth management strategy, allows for moderate growth in this district. And if the intent were to confine that growth to the area between High River and Okotoks, as suggested by the subdivision authority, the boundaries of the district should have been modified to reflect this. The parcel is adjacent to the Southwest District. That was the previous application was. Sorry, not previous application. The Brooke versus MD application was in the South Central District, but further south. But nevertheless is still within that South Central District where infill nature of the proposal and its close proximity to Black Diamond and Turner Valley would make it a location where there's infrastructure and agricultural operations are less likely to be affected. Now, the application aligns with all of the policies and the requirements and the purpose of the country residential district. The purpose to provide for a single family home, and the subject site is suitable for this residential development. The lots will be serviced by the individual water and wastewater septic systems, and they will bring the quarter section to a total of only 7 parcels, which aligns with the parcel density of that district that allows for up to 32. So the application does meet the density requirements, but as noted, the application was refused by council, which means it does not comply with 13.1.6.1, where a person who wishes to subdivide land in the district into additional lots must first apply for and be granted an approval of the land use bylaw amendment. However, this is the only section under the country residential district that it doesn't comply with. And this is not a use or a definition, and it does not prohibit this appeal, and it's not binding on the board. You can vary that standard. With regards to that provision in the land use bylaw that requires a land use amendment before subdivision, in a previous board order, the Municipal Government Act found the requirement for bylaw amendment prior to subdivision to be a subversion of the Act's subdivision process. They say that to require a land use bylaw amendment prior to subdivision is to subvert the subdivision process as designed by legislation. Since bylaw amendments are council decisions, this requirement essentially allows a decision of council to deny subdivision, which is not the scheme of Division 7 of Part 17 of the Act. So this order here refers to 12.1.6.1, which is the same provision in the agricultural district, but it is the same principle. 13.1.6.1 is not binding on this board, and it does not preclude this appeal as it is not a purpose statement or a listed use in the district. This previous board order indicates that this provision in the land use bylaw does not align with the Municipal Government Act subdivision process, and it actually subverts the process that's established by legislation. So meaning if you have the land use in place, you should be able to subdivide as outlined in the MGA, provided sound planning principles are followed without requiring a land use amendment. I'll touch briefly on the Municipal Government Act here as well to indicate alignment with the Municipal Government Act and the legislation that governs subdivision and appeals in the county. So approval of an application, we do align with 654 in that it is suitable, which I have discussed in detail, that we align with the policy, again, of the SSRP, the MDP, the Growth Management Strategy, and the Land Use Bylaw. And it aligns with the intent and purpose statement of the Country Residential District, meaning the board can reasonably approve this application. Similarly, the subdivision authority may approve an application for subdivision even though it does not comply with the land use bylaw, if it, in its opinion, it would not materially interfere with the amenities of the neighborhood or interfere with or affect the use, enjoyment, or value of neighboring parcels of land, and that it conforms with the use. So the proposed subdivision will not interfere with the existing agricultural operations, and it is not going to have a material impact on the amenities, use, value, or enjoyment of the adjacent properties, and the will not unduly impact traffic, noise, or have other offsite impacts, and will be subject to the same community standards, bylaws, and expectations as any other property in the area, and it conforms with the country residential use. Similarly, the board hearing this appeal must have regard for a statutory plan. We've demonstrated compliance with the SSRP and the MDP and the land use bylaw. You must conform with the uses of the land. So we've demonstrated that it complies with the Foothills County Land Use Bylaw purpose statement and the use of single-family homes. And it's noted that you must have regard to, but is not bound by the subdivision and development regulations. This application complies with the subdivision and development regulations regarding suitable parcel sizes, legal and physical access, and is not subject to any specific restrictions of the Act. I also want now I want to discuss some of the mitigation measures and potential conditions of approval for the application. But first, I want to bring your attention to these quotes from Planning Law and Practice by Locks and Palmer, which provides us with some information and interpretation of Planning and Municipal Government Act. So in referring to the Act, the Planning Law and Practice states that even though an application for a discretionary use meets all of the bylaws development standards, the application can be refused by the Development Authority if it has a sound planning basis for concluding that the use is inappropriate. It follows that the Development Authority is entitled to allow the development conditional upon the application doing such things or making such modifications to its plans as the authority considers appropriate to meet the planning concerns that might otherwise result in a legitimate refusal. In other words, conditions can properly be imposed to require the applicant to go beyond the development standards provided for in the bylaw. So while this quote refers to the development permits, it applies in this case where the subdivision authority has discretion to approve a subdivision and can effectively impose conditions to mitigate offsite impacts and allow the development to proceed. I'll also note this second quote here, that the objective of the planning process is to achieve the use and development of land in a manner as consistent with evolving societal values as possible. So currently, the most dominant of these values are to secure the safe use of land with the least amount of potential degradation of the environment, to secure the use of all land so as to minimize the negative impact on neighboring lands, and to secure the most cost-effective use of land from the point of view of municipal infrastructure, and finally, to recognize and give effect to public interest element in private land use decisions, but not at the undue expense of private property rights. With regards to this quote, with giving greater weight to anecdotal neighbor concerns than to evidence provided demonstrates an overreach at the expense of the landowner's property rights. The board can effectively balance individual property rights and this request with those of the neighbors by approving the subdivision with suitable conditions to mitigate potential offsite impacts and ensuring that it still aligns with legitimate planning concerns. We've already suggested many of these mitigation measures that I'll review in detail in the following slides, as well as proposed conditions for the board to consider. So this image here indicates the distance between the three closest residents of the proposed lots. So you can see that there is an existing home in yellow on this northern on the property north of the Canarios. It would be about 95 meters downsloping to the building on lot 2, and it'd be about 137 meters to a building location on lot 1. Now, these are estimates only, just to provide a visual and some scale of the distances between a house. But even at 95 meters, that's the size of a soccer field. It doesn't look far, but a FIFA field is about 100 meters. Neighbors to the south are over 650 meters away, and some of the other neighbors in the adjoining areas are even further away and are screened by existing vegetation. There's been some comments about the driveway lengths and the suitability of the driveways. So we've provided this comparison here that show several long driveways in the area and other ones that do also traverse the slopes to get up to a building area. Now, on these lots, these will go up the slope, but they will require engineered driveways. So any of the other driveways in the area that were not subject to a development authority's decision would not have had these engineered driveways or even a driveway standard. So we will have engineered driveways that will be designed to ensure compliance with the county standards regarding building and development on these slopes. With regards to protecting the view shed, so the proposed lots have been designed with specific and intentional building envelopes. These are the dotted lines that you see that show the proposed lot areas. Now, this red hatched area here represents the area that would be registered on title through restrictive covenant and would restrict development here. So this would be intended to protect the view from this building here. They've recently built a house and they do have views that go through to the southwest area. So we would be willing to work with them to identify these restricted areas to preserve and respect that view. Oops, sorry, wrong direction. Now this photo here is from the top of the ridge. You can see at number 1 here. So once you get to the top of the ridge, this is looking to the northwest towards the existing residence. And you can see that this is essentially across the proposed building envelope area, and how the top of the ridge here would be outside of the building envelope area as part of the restricted area. This is a cross section looking from the neighbor's house all the way across the proposed lot 1. So A is actually on the right side of your screen. So this is the neighbor's property where their house sits. And then this shows the elevation on Google Earth across the proposed building area for lot 1. This is another image that shows the view towards Lot 2, which slopes downward where a building would be and below the line of sight. So you can see that this is the existing residence to the north, and it does slope quite significantly downwards in the south and east directions. So similarly, we've provided this cross section to show the difference in the elevation here as well, up from A, which you can see here is the residence, down towards B, into and across actually the property line. And this is just another cross section showing the change in elevation. If you go straight through rather than sort of to the southeast, there is a similar drop in topography there. And as noted by Public Works, if any of the slopes are identified to be greater than 15%, there would be a slope stability study that would be completed to demonstrate suitable development on the slopes. So this is a view shed from the end of 80th Street looking northwest, approximately about 1,700 meters away. And to demonstrate that there are existing vegetation along the area already. This is quite a zoomed in photo to even see this far, but you can see that that the residence is well screened and that top of the ridge has some existing vegetation that would be in the way of development here and any views coming from or across from 80th. Another view shed here is from 96. So this is from closer to Highway 7, actually, looking back towards the property. And you can see the existing residence up on the hill here. You can also see several other homes built into the ridge and into the hill where their driveways would have come across the property and provided access to their homes up on these hills. This arrow is just a rough estimate of where a proposed house could be placed, but it's not an exact location. It's just to indicate some of the scale and the view and the existing development that's already occurred in the area. Additional mitigation measures that we have offered are fire smart principles to be registered by restrictive covenant. We've heard that this was a concern from neighbors, and these would be registered on both lots to ensure or to create sort of fire safety principles in the area. For emergency vehicle access, this double panhandle area has been graded to reduce slopes, and there will be engineered driveways to ensure that they can be accessed by emergency vehicles. Offsite impacts, offsite impacts as well as dark sky compliance would be covered under the Community Standards Bylaw and the Dark Sky Bylaw. The Canarios are longtime residents in the area and they want to continue living in this area. They want to be good neighbors and they do comply with these policies to reduce any of their offsite impacts. Also a note on livestock, both of the proposed lots would only be allowed one livestock unit, so they wouldn't be proposing significant agricultural operations that would have an impact on any of the adjacent neighbors. With regards to 96th Street being a dead-end road, again, they are proactively dedicating land for this cul-de-sac turnaround to provide this safe turnaround for school buses, snow removal, and emergency vehicles. So the property already supports about 3 kilometers of page wire fence around the perimeter, and additional page wire fencing would be utilized to delineate these lots and ensure that animals don't escape the confines. Like I said, the proposed lots would only support one livestock unit and would not introduce a livestock operation. So it would be unreasonable to expect that there would be breeding or a number of animals that would be wandering about on these parcels that are about 4.5 and 5 acres. With regards to water, in accordance with the Water Act, each landowner has the equal opportunity and right to prove water on proposed lots prior to subdivision endorsement of the county. Well reports will be conducted as a condition of subdivision, and these reports will need to conclude that the addition of the proposed well will not negatively impact existing well users. And that's established in the Water Act, and every new subdivision in the county and in the province has to provide these reports by a qualified professional that demonstrates that it is suitable. With regards to safety and firearm discharge near homes, the area of a sort of a 2-kilometer radius around the site is not identified as supporting wildlife that would be suitable for hunting activities. So this isn't an area that sees a high amount or high percentage of hunting, and adding 2 lots to this existing country residential area in an already fragmented quarter section doesn't increase the risk to the residents, that every person who is using firearms in the area is responsible for their discharge. So these are the suggested conditions that were in your agenda package already. We agree with these, and they will be completed should the subdivision be approved. We've also suggested a few additional ones here, that the road acquisition agreement for the purpose of road dedication for a future cul-de-sac, the access right-of-ways be registered over panhandles, that the building envelopes be registered as restrictive covenants on title, and that these fire smart principles be registered on title as well. So these are, 20 conditions that can reasonably be imposed to ensure that, or to limit and minimize impacts to neighbors and continue to align with the guiding policies for the area. So in my conclusion, I would reiterate that the land is already designated as country residential in the land use bylaws district. Country residential district, directing growth to country residential areas protects agricultural land and is an efficient use of the county's country residential land use base. The application is consistent with the policy direction outlined in the SSRP, the MDP, the growth management strategy, and the land use bylaw. It balances the need for growth in the county while preserving agricultural land. It maintains the rural character of the area, and it supports infill development by directing growth to this already fragmented area. The new lots will accommodate single-family homes and have suitable developable areas for this purpose. And the proposed subdivision and the building envelopes have been intentionally and thoughtfully designed to incorporate these mitigation measures to limit offsite impacts and sensibly integrate with the existing area. And before I conclude, I'll ask Nuno and Cherie for any of their comments.
Chair and members of the board, thank you for hearing our appeal. My name is Sherry Canario. This is Nuno. We have lived here for just over 13 years. We chose the property carefully and have invested our family, our time, our work into our home. Our intention would be to build our forever home on the hill on one of the smaller parcels of land to make room for our family to grow. Before buying, we reviewed the title and sale documents and researched the municipal developmental plan, land use bylaw, growth management strategy, and applicable joint planning policies. The property was and remains country residential. Nothing identified it as protected grassland, a protected viewshed, or land where subdivision could not be considered. We understood that any proposal had to satisfy county policies and technical requirements, and that neighbors would be heard. We did not understand that expectations about views or seclusion would determine the future of our land. We did not understand that neighbors' expectations dictate policy. Our proposal is modest, 2 new parcels. That is 3 rural-sized parcels, not a dense development. Our experience with sheep, goats, and cattle shows the land supports hobby livestock, not a viable farm. We want to use country residential land carefully while preserving its rural character. For more than 5 years, we worked with county planning staff. We completed permits and compliance work, revised the concepts in response to county feedback. We neither rushed the application nor assumed approval. We were transparent and made our intentions known to the neighbors over the years. With the guidance from the county, we approached and spoke to all of the immediate neighbors that we thought would be impacted. The land use amendment was publicly advertised, and the subdivision application was mailed to adjacent landowners. To our understanding, circulation identified no fatal technical concerns. We do not minimize anyone's concerns or treat planning as a vote. We simply ask that limited opposition not be mistaken for a unanimous community position, and that practical concerns be tested through professional design and enforceable conditions. We have tried to be good neighbors by offering help when we can and by inviting discussions about the proposal. We will retain trees and landscape for privacy where practical. The March hearing was difficult. We felt ambushed. Some neighbors had expressed concerns but did not communicate to us their opposition to the application. We first saw the full written opposition through the hearing process. From our perspective, the hearing felt subjective, one-sided, and did not reflect our history nor our intentions. We understand why people value views, quiet, and privacy, because we value them too. But our title and purchase documents identified no protected view corridor or prohibits change. We ask that personal concerns be balanced against the planning framework, technical evidence, and reasonable conditions. We are prepared to meet the board's conditions, including proof of water, septic suitability, grading and draining plans, building envelopes, road dedication, engineered access, utilities, and compliance. We are not avoiding these obligations. We ask for the opportunity to satisfy them. Please evaluate the application on its planning merits and allow the appeal with appropriate conditions. This will let us continue our family plan while protecting safety, rural character, and our responsibilities to the community. We're asking for a fair opportunity to design a space that is intended for family. This property is our home and our long-term family investment. We respectfully ask that the appeal be allowed and that we be given the opportunity to move forward responsibly, subject to all appropriate conditions. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
The board members have questions at this time? Mr. Myers?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Question through the chair to the landowners and their representative. I have three questions, actually. Just to revisit this, is the land actively being pastured right now? Are there animals on it?
Yeah, just a hobby. We finish and raise cattle now. I used to do sheep and goats for sustainability. So we raise a steer, finish it, or a cow. And so we have three right now.
Okay, thank you. Question number two, has the soil quality, has it been determined?
Not professionally, but we have done quite a bit of tree planting and landscaping, and the soil erosion at the top of that hill. The soil is probably about 2 inches. So yeah, it's I don't want to say it's poor grassland, but it doesn't sustain a flock, and it only sustains a few cows, even how big it is now.
And finally, have you determined the elevation difference between the residents to the north and where the potential building sites would be? Like I saw elevations on there, but I couldn't read the numbers.
Yeah, through the chair, I can revisit those. I can also add some context with the soil suitability. So the soil index for the area, we did look at it as well, and it was, I don't have it in part of the presentation, but it is 3H and 3HM and 5, so 50% and 50% for the polygon for the site. So it has moderate restrictions with regards to heat and water suitability for supporting large grassland and like suitable agricultural operations. With regards to the elevation differences, so the elevation change between A to B here. I'm just going to zoom in here for us. Oh gosh. Can't zoom. Okay. So the difference is about 2 meters on this one. So it goes from about 1281 to 1283 that you can see here in between these, the minimum and the maximum. So the minimum down here and then the maximum, so 1281 to 1283. So in this section, it'd be a difference of about 2 meters for vertical elevation. On this,
2 meters lower.
so it would be, yeah, so in this one, it would be about 2 meters lower, even if it was at this location, which is one of the highest points on that property. It does slope to the northwest as well. This is only showing this specific cross section. So, and then on this one, the maximum elevation then is about, 1282, which, is 1282 up at the top where we've measured it here. Down through to the middle here is 1276. And that would maybe be where a house would go if it was placed right in the middle. And then if it was placed down at the bottom, that would be down lower to about 1268, which is one of the other elevations listed here. So there's about a 20-meter difference between A and B on this Lot 2 building envelope area. Does that satisfy your question there?
It does, thank you.
Further questions, board? Mr. Damon?
Mr. Chairman, I was wondering for the landowners, the access to the two lots. I was wondering what your plan was. Was it going to be a common lane, or are you receptive to sharing one lane to both properties?
So through the chair to Board Member Damon, I'll go to the access slide here to answer that question in more detail. There will be one common approach from 96th Street, but then that will connect to individual driveways on their own panhandles. And the purpose of that is so that there is legal and physical access for each of the proposed parcels. If we were to propose only like one common driveway, then we run into the issue of easements, which we understand is also not supported. Is that what you're requesting?
You've answered my question.
Okay, I mean,
that's
if
fine,
the
thank you.
board
Yeah.
suggests that an easement is
Okay.
most suitable, the landowners would be open to that.
Further questions? I was going to ask a question on this one. What's the timing of the removal of those still 3 buildings that we see there? Just on that slide that you popped up there.
Through the chair, the buildings that need to be removed would be removed as soon as the application was approved. And if there was a time frame put on it by the county, they would be removed within that time. They're not, my understanding is they're not needed right now for the agricultural operations and could be removed immediately.
And just as an aside, can we get copies of your proposed conditions?
Oh, yes, absolutely. The conditions actually in the presentation here are primarily the ones that are in the agenda package. We've only identified 4 new ones and we can provide those to the board.
Thank you. Being no questions by the board at this time, we would move on to the interested people. The first on my list is Ms. Miller. Do you have anything to say or just to be recognized?
Ms. Miller is going to speak and provide some supplemental material to my close as part of our team, not as another registered participant separately. Is that all right?
So run that by me again.
So the Ms. Miller will provide a statement as part of my closing remarks.
Okay.
She's basically part of
And-
our landowner applicant.
Generally,
team.
closing comments wouldn't introduce anything new.
No, it's not new. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, can we have one moment to convene then and we'll just confirm amongst ourselves?
Sure.
Thank you. The closing remarks won't introduce anything new. It would just be as part of our closing team member. Thank you.
Next is the landowner Gibson McPhee. No, we need you to be recorded.
Okay.
There you go.
Do I need to restart or is this okay? Good. Lots of other mics picking me up as I went. So just scribbled down a few thoughts because I didn't want to miss anything. Nuno and Sherry have been great neighbors for us since we moved out about 4 years ago. Helpful, generous with time and knowledge. We agreed to they talked with us early on and us being out and about and with their development plan, and it had actually been even bigger in my head. So when we saw that it was 2 houses, that seemed, that seemed very reasonable for the type of land and what they had in mind. That it's 2 homes, it's a small increase in the area, and that if we wanted less traffic on 96th Street, it would actually be really good to put a road impassable sign where it stops being a road at the end. We've heard a apocryphal story in the past that a semi-tractor and trailer ignored the no exit sign that's about a mile away from the end of the road, made it up to the end there, realized he couldn't back up, and so he bumped and wobbled his way right over the top because, there was no other way to get back. So I don't know that the proposed turnaround loop would actually help in the event of a semi getting up there, but it certainly would for the odd other inattentive large vehicle driver that ends up at the end there. We've seen other new homes go in on 96th Street and, never thought that there was any reason that there shouldn't be new homes going in. In a way, you'd always like things to stay exactly the way they were when you first chose them, but that's also not the way of the world. And some of those may be visible if I go right to the edge of my property. I'd never thought of complaining that, hey, there's a house in my field of view. It was more hey, there's a new neighbor in my field of view if I go right up to the fence. So as has been said several times, that it seems a lot better to put houses in what's already defined as somewhat residential land rather than breaking off new chunks of someone else's farm to do it. Calgary's doing way too much of that already, so the world doesn't need all the farmland converted into housing. So this plan is a reasonable way to approach that. The planned improvement for the end of the road would be great. It's our driveway that the school buses use to turn around. And that driveway has expanded a lot in width because every shoddy turn spreads it out. Before we did put some recycled asphalt down, you could see where a post used to be that was now 2.5 feet in from the edge of the driveway because multiple turnarounds by everybody, but mostly school buses, has made a lot of stuff there. So especially in winter, having a useful turnaround point would be much better than having something that, oh my goodness, it turns into a dirt track. What do I do now? So yes, it seems like it's good to improve one's own land as long as it's not doing any harm to anyone else. And as I understand, Nuno and Sherry worked with the county to get as proper a proposal as they could before it went through the voting process. So it's not sort of the first kick at it that the bureaucracy had worked with them to make it as good as it reasonably could be. So that's about all I have to say. I'd be very glad to take any questions.
Board members? Thank you, sir. Next on my list is Mr. Campbell.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Sit down here again. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, neighbors and friends. I appreciate this. We all want to reach an amicable agreement this afternoon, all of us in this room. I, Andrew Campbell, wholeheartedly support this proposal of 2 small parcels off the existing 20 acres to form 2 of approximately 4 to 5 acres each, plus the remaining 10 acres, more or less, to be 3 parcels in total. Often, when larger agricultural parcels are used for country residential, there can and is often both misuse and underuse of dwindling agricultural lands. I believe in my 10 or so years of knowing the Canario family, they have been both stewards of the land and being eager to learn from neighboring ranchers and farmers in the community. With misuse and underuse often can lead to invasive and nuisance weeds, which are a problem in the county. They are such as dandelion in the springtime, Taxicum officinale, foxtail barley, Hordeum jubatum in the summertime, and now this time of year, Canada thistle, Circium arvens, and toadflax, Laniaria vulgaris, in early autumn. The Canarios have been eager to learn how to control these weeds. I wonder if this is consistent with many other members of the MD, as it is a concern to me as a rancher. 2 smaller parcels of the 4.6 and the 5.7 split off leads me to believe that better weed control plus efficient use of the country residential zoned lands, as outlined in council here and the SSRP for future density guidelines, is actually in good use of the land. The Canario family is a positive addition to our agricultural community. That's important to the county. They have embraced my farming advice as able students from day one over a decade ago. The Canarios are good neighbors and have assisted me personally in many heavy lifting, sheep shearing, cattle corral work, plus the birthing of babies on my farm and theirs. Yet as recently as last week, up until 3 o'clock in the morning, Nuno and I were called upon by 92-year-old Roy Mundell and his 82-year-old wife, Shirley, to assist in a difficult sow birthing, while all of us probably in this room were sleeping. When I arrived at 11:30 p.m., Nuno had already examined the birth canal in his overalls and rubber gloves. He has brought along ample supplies of old towels and soapy warm water. He is better prepared than me, his instructor that night. Another time, the Canarios have dropped their own work last September to help organize over 400 guest wedding on my ranch, my own wedding, north of Black Diamond. He took it upon himself to provide safety for the many passing traffic on our busy 176th Street, the secondary road near our farm. I have never observed the Canario family any lack of community spirit, as they have also helped me in the local rodeos. If I remember correctly, the Canarios welcomed and helped a seriously ill neighbor of theirs on 96th Street, and that ill neighbor whom was on crutches at the time. I wonder if other neighbors along that street are so amiable. As surely we all in this community want good neighbors. The Canario family proposal to build may not be based upon my observances or knowledge of the family. Yet council may want to consider the positive influence this deserving family has given to me, a longtime Foothills resident. I see their subdivision can only bring in good families such as theirs, rather than one subdivision. Our Foothills, therefore, can be better. I insist my life has become richer and happier with the Canario family nearby my farm. Although they're not farm people, they definitely are stewards of the land. I can only wish that they live closer to us so I could have them around more often. I am your faithful county family member, Andrew Campbell.
Thank you. Questions? Thank you, sir. Next on my list is Jeremy Watts.
The previous council, hello. I did have a statement originally when I was up here, when we were denied. I want to say that I've lived there for 12 years. We actually rent the secondary suite from the Canarios. When we first were planning on moving, when I got transferred from Saskatchewan to Alberta, we were looking for a home. My wife and Miss Canario are best friends. Nuno positioned this subdivision to us when we were looking for a home. It seemed very aligned with what we wanted. Since we did move onto their land 12 years ago, our families have become very close. So close that both me and my wife are godparents to their children. We will be a purchaser of one of these sections of land where, if approved, we will be on the land. And any individual here that is a neighbor on 96th Street can also attest to Nuno's character, that even in the middle of the night, if he does get called, he never refuses. He is a great steward of the land. I try to help him as much as I possibly can, along with Andy Campbell, who is previously up here. We are all tied together as a family, and it would be great if we could live out the rest of our lives on that property with the Canarios. And that's all I want. I just wanted to make that knowledgeable. And my statement from previous is also, you may read it and make decisions from that. But again, our families are extremely tight. We will be purchasing one of these sections, and yeah, that's what I have today. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next on the list is Elliot and Sheila Todd.
Yeah, through the chair, that they're not going to speak in person. They provided that late letter that was distributed in the agenda package from Elliot Todd.
So the written one.
The written letter, yes.
Next would be Matt Blackmore. Yes, sir.
I request that we read that letter from Mr. Todd.
We have it in our package. We all have received it. Thank you.
Chair, Council, thank you. I'm Matt Blackmore. I live just down the road from Nuno. My wife and I have been there for 20 years now. We typically stay neutral in situations like this, but a lot of things got me questioning what and how we approach a situation like this. If we start denying this generation an opportunity like this, especially with how tough it's getting out there, work-wise, with and economy-wise, the uncertainty we have with the governments, with what we don't know what tomorrow is going to bring, taking away an opportunity from this generation is going to impact a massive amount of families and a massive amount of how we're all going to move forward. We are not opposed to this subdivision. Nuno and his family, they want to just grow their family just like we do. We want to leave a legacy to our children, and we want to make sure that we keep the right people on our road. Like the 20 years that we've lived here, we've butt heads with neighbors, but we've always made amends. We've been there for each other. Nuno has been there for us, been there for my wife. And I find that if we start going down this road of letting other neighbors decide the fate of and the outcome, because at the end of the day, development is inevitable. I have been in the building and development industry for 20 years, and we all know it's a challenge. We know there's hurdles over every development that's there. Then there's obstacles that have to be overcome. Assuming that the Canarios abide by all of the conditions that are laid out, and it doesn't affect anybody else, I can't see how moving this area forward for them to prove this should be an issue. I'll conclude here just by I understand where they're coming from, because we have plans as well to want to subdivide some of our land for our kids. One of the, oh, sorry, back up a second. With one of the biggest problems that we've had on that road has been the turnaround at the top of that road. The amount of buses that we pulled out that have been stuck there in the winter times, the amount of people coming to deliver equipment or something for us to use or something, and they have to back down the entire road because they can't turn around again. For them to give up this part of land for this here proper access to get built, I think that's the best externality that we have coming out of this. There's a few new families on the road now that their kids are going to start going to school and that here very soon too. And I'm sure if you dig into the issues the buses have had over the years, you'll find out. We've even been told that our kids were 4 and 5, 6 years old, and they were told they had to start walking down to the bottom of the hill because the bus refused to come up because they couldn't turn around. I think that externality is one of the, and that problem that's being fixed is one of the best solutions there. And just conclude by thanking you guys for your consideration and that, and if there's anything else that we can put forward, just please let us know.
Thank you. Questions, board members? Thank you. Next on the list is Kent and Krista Moore.
Thank you for hearing me today. I was going to start off by reading my letter.
Get close to your.
Oh, sorry. The letter that we wrote in April never got put into the file until yesterday, late in the day. So I don't know if you've had a chance to read our letters.
Yes, we all
Oh,
have
good.
received
Okay.
it.
I was going to go over it, but I won't if you've read them.
No, you could give us the highlights if you like.
Okay. Now, one of the things I did yesterday was go over the municipal development plan. I was very happy to see for Foothills, there's a lot of good things in there about keeping everything natural, and I'll read what I highlighted. The municipal development plan emphasizes conservation. Sorry, I get my glasses. Emphasizes conservation. This emphasis is not only placed on conserving the natural capital as our agricultural lands, critical watershed and habitats, but also on conserving the quality of life of the people. Now, that's kind of what I want to talk about, because this lady over here, this young woman, did a great job in her presentation, and I can't talk to a lot of that stuff. But what I can tell you is very personal. This proposal is affecting us in a very deep way. The pictures they showed, they may look like they are accurate, but they're not. What we would see from our house would be the side of a house instead of what we see now is a nice field with cows. The proposed lot to the east, if they build it further down, that'd be fine, but they probably wouldn't. I don't know how we can make these people put a house or barns or whatever they want to put down that low. Is that possible? Is that part of what we're talking about today? Is that they have to build down below out of our view? Oh, okay, sorry. Anyway, I would like to continue. Also, what I read yesterday on a rural character, planning for growth must be understood within the context of our rural character. Here are 5 qualities which begin to define the character of the MD of Foothills. I'll just go over them briefly. Wide open spaces. We should manage new land uses and subdivisions in the MD to retain rural quality and preserve agricultural lands. I know you guys know all this already, but. And scenic vistas. The views and vistas found in the MD are beautiful. While not every view can be protected from change, preserving the scenic quality is essential to the rural character, economic vitality, and quality of life in the MD of Foothills. These visual resources available to everyone are valuable and deserve consideration within planning. Now, one of the things mentioned earlier was the value of a property wouldn't be affected, and that's just not true. If I was looking at land to buy, when we did come up here to look 3 years ago and found the house we have now, I would buy it in a second. But if there was 2 homes right beside it, within, it could be a couple hundred feet, it could be 100 feet. Our fence is only 100 feet away from these proposals. I wouldn't buy it. I came here for peace and quiet. That's in my letter as to why we moved here. We moved here from BC 3 years ago looking for peace and quiet. I'm a former policeman. My wife's a former teacher. We thought we'd found the perfect piece of land, 22 acres, We chose to put our house in the farthest corner from all the other homes in the area. It also had a very nice view, and it was right beside the well that was already dug before we moved in. I don't know who put the well there. I just want to clear that up. Anyway, sorry. We've gotten to know a lot of people in the area. We found a great church in Millerville. We know a lot of great people. There's about 15 or 20 of us who meet for coffee every week in Black Diamond. And one of the things that always comes up is how much everyone loves this area. Two of the people are engineers in the oil business, and so is one of our neighbors. They worked all over the world. They all have horses. They're all from the UK. They chose Foothills for a reason. It's just so special. And that's why we chose it. And I'd like to keep it that way, even though maybe it sounds like 200 feet or 300 feet is a long ways from our house. It's not what we signed up for. It's not what we bought into. We were hoping, like right now, I can look towards Nuno's property and see 5 cows or 4 cows. If I look beyond that, I see our other neighbors, the Twists, who she also wrote a letter. I see them riding their horses. If I look beyond that, I see canola fields, more cattle, more hay. If I look to the left, I see the McLean's property with cattle. I see them riding their horses. I see them fixing their fences. The first time I talked to Brent ever, he was walking his dog. We had a nice talk. If they build those 2 homes there, I won't see all that anymore. I'll see part of it, but I'll also be looking at homes that will be blocking the view of my mountains. I look out my windows every day. I know what I'll be able to see if a house is there. Not to mention barns or other buildings that they might put up. And speaking of, when we first moved here, Nuno was nice enough to talk to us and tell us, I'm planning on a subdivision. This was really devastating to us because our whole lives had been planned around this. This is our retirement and forever home. It was going to change drastically with 2 new homes right beside us. When I say right beside us, I know it's not a subdivision, but it's still close. We'll hear them talking. We'll hear their cars. So it does make a difference to us. And when we did meet with Nuno and Sherry, we met with them 3 times over coffee because this was so upsetting to us. We offered to buy a strip of land that would give us an extra 120 feet of space. Nuno was nice enough to write up 3 proposals, and the final one he wrote up, we agreed with. We offered him $350,000 for 3 acres of land, just a narrow strip to give us a buffer. We never heard back, so I guess he didn't think it was enough money. We offered him another $50,000 if his proposal was approved. All the times we met with Nuno and Sherry, and I like them, they're nice people. Not once did they ever ask us what we thought about covenants or anything else. It was just, we want money. That's how it felt. Anyway, that's basically what I have to say. Thank you for your time. I do appreciate it.
Thank you. Board members. Next, remotely, we have Kyle McLean.
I'm sorry, I'm Krista Maurer, I'm Kent's wife. Is it possible, I wrote a letter as well and asked to have a moment. Is that all right?
Are you going to be brief?
I will do, how about if I just read what I have and add a couple of things? We did apply to speak and we were approved to speak, I understand. You said my name earlier for
So-
Kent and Krista Maurer.
In 5 to 10 minutes?
I'll read it. Well, I'm just really aware of dreams of all our neighbors just intersecting and not aligning. And I just want to have my opportunity to say our dream and see where it lands with you guys, with the neighborhood guidelines. So we're neighbors just with the home most affected by this situation. I would, like Kent said, he's a former police officer. I'm a retired art teacher, and we chose this property based on the openness of the spot. This is the third house we've searched out to build, and this, we thought we got it all right. We thought we got the location and the peacefulness, all the factors. We designed our home to highlight the beauty of this area, looking at all this amazing area around us. I'm an artist, and we designed the home based on what we were looking at around us. We were able, because our lot is twice as wide as Nuno and Cherry's, we were able to make a very large S-shaped driveway because of the slope going up. It's a steep slope, and I really question whether the driveways are going to be possible, because we had to engineer a great big S shape with a very wide lot, twice as wide, like I said, as theirs, and that access would not have been possible without that large S. The other thing we did was we buried the power lines. We didn't want to see great big power poles up the beautiful slope obstructing mountain view. We did everything we could to make sure that there was a beautiful open and appropriate for the beauty of this area setting for our home and for my life as an artist and inviting people to my studio and gallery as well. And by the way, I love a lot about Nuno and Cherry, and I don't question any of their wonderful character in terms of people and neighbors that they got to know. But when they got to know us, it wasn't based on our neighbor proximity. It was based on how they could establish a financial backing. And in fact, they even asked us to hook in to their new driveway system to subdivide our lot. They wanted to offer us another $150,000 to hook into their driveway so that we could in the future potentially subdivide our property into many other lots. And I have actual documents and plans here with me describing the plan for their development to hook into our lot to further develop the whole hillside of our property. So they had plans. They had financial benefit. They wanted us to align with their plans so that they would have more opportunity to subdivide. And
Can you keep your comments to the situation that we're dealing with here?
yes, I'm sorry. I thought I was. Yeah. So I'll just finish what I have here. I wanted to talk about the water. Our well is 300 foot deep, and it existed before we moved there. It is a very low producing, under 1.5 gallons per minute water supply, and it went dry when we tried to water some new trees that we planted. So the likelihood of finding water on 5 acres when we had trouble getting water on our 22 acres, for me, is pretty unlikely. Anyway, I don't want to begrudge anybody a beautiful view. That's what we signed up for ourselves. But we thought there was a protected space around us. And to find out 2 months after we moved in and spent our whole life savings building this place, to find out that within a short span of time, our whole plan had been changed significantly by having a development that looks more like a glorified subdivision than a rural area, is really not what we signed up for and hoped for. So neighborhood relationships aside, in terms of just what our plans were and what we are getting and what we were hoping for with our our life savings, it's going to be significantly changed. So anyway, thank you so much for the time.
Thank you. Thank you. Questions? Mr. Myers?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Question for Ms. Marr, two questions actually. Is your water well no longer viable?
It is, yes. What happened was when we gave it an opportunity to rest when we were trying to establish our newly planted trees, it did, 1.5 gallons per minute, perked up again.
So it came back, you're still using your water well?
We're still using our well, yeah.
Second question, you mentioned Higher Ground Art as a destination for art lovers, Leighton Art Center style studio. Do you have an approved development permit for a small business?
No, I don't. It's not, I have a dream. It's not I had a similar situation where we used to live on the Sunshine Coast. I did have a functioning, viable business with an VRBO and our studio and gallery, but
on this
we haven't.
property?
No, this is where we used to live on the Sunshine Coast.
Oh, I see.
But so I haven't established it enough. I haven't felt the potential being safe enough to establish because of what we've been experiencing in the last 2 years with potential change next door to us. It will always be my studio, but it won't always necessarily be a gallery and a place for people to visit because of the changes that I fear may happen.
Okay, thank you. That answers my questions.
Thank you.
Further? No further questions this time. Mr. Kyle McLean is remotely. Do you have some comments for us?
Good afternoon. My name is Kyle McLean. As a neighbor and joint owner of the agricultural property located at Northeast 621 West 5, I continually oppose the application submitted by the landowners Nuno and Shrees Canario. To respect the board's time, I will not repeat the objections outlined in my original letter dated February 28th, 2026. My additional comments are provided for the following reasons. Communication. Since the original public hearing on Wednesday, March 4th, the Canarios have not contacted me, either formally or informally. To date, I have never spoken with Nuno or Shri Canario. There has never been any communication. In an effort to develop positive working relationship, I would have appreciated some contact with the goal of working together for a solution to minimize agricultural fragmentation for all stakeholders within Foothills County. I'd like to add, there was a bowl put up on the property recently. My brother and I, after work, we saw that we thought we wanted to get out because there's only a couple cows, and we went up after work on our time and our dime, and we hot wired it so their bulls wouldn't fight with our bulls. We didn't complain, we just did it because that's what good neighbors do. You work together. One other comment on subsurface. As a geologist and member of the Association of Professional Engineers and Geoscientists of Alberta for nearly 20 years, I am concerned about the unintended consequences of agricultural fragmentation that could be resulted from water well development on this specific parcel. Due to the location of the water wells on a higher ground, this parcel line encompasses a ridge. Generally in the area, the public data suggests higher ground elevations have lower flow rates as compared to lower lying areas proximal to the Sheep River. This is important because this may lead to additional potable water wells required to serve current and future occupants and also the livestock on the ridge. While groundwater falls under the jurisdiction of the government of Alberta, I believe these potential impacts are also germane to Foothills County. Lithology and completion of these wells is important as water production and drainage area can vary significantly depending on reservoir parameters such as fracture porosity compared to tight sandstone. In my opinion, well drainage in this area could range from approximately 200 to 460 meters depending on lithology, production rate, depth, and cumulative production over the life of the well. In my opinion, this is significant. Without a clear plan for the number of wells and location of future wells, further land fragmentation may result. For example, it would be very upsetting if the Mowers water well went dry because of the placement of new water wells on the proposed parcels. In that scenario, it is not clear to me at that point in time if Foothills County would need to intervene in order to offer a solution for all parties involved. Water wells should be treated case to case and not lumped together as presented due to the nature of the geology. Based on the facts and data, I would recommend consultation by a hydrogeologist for their expert opinion on these parcels of land. I therefore would like to understand the proposed plan for future water well placement and access so that the surface disturbance and fragmentation can be minimized for all stakeholders in the area. Thank you very much for your time for listening to me.
Thank you. Question, board? Now I'd hear from
Question.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry,
Myers.
question to Mr. McLean through the board. This may have to be answered by Ms. Furnell. Can you show us where Mr. McLean's property is in relation to the subdivision, potential subdivision, please?
We need to share the screen.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, maybe I can clarify. It appears on the map that the northeast quarter of section 6 is an unfragmented quarter. Is that correct?
I could tell you on the quarter, we run livestock. It's undeveloped. My brother Connor and I own the property. I think Connor's planning to speak as well. And we run livestock, ranging from 60 to 85 prior to the droughts. And so we're just trying to preserve the agricultural integrity of the land. And there was comments earlier about thistle, and we agree wholeheartedly about thistle and chemicals through spraying, such as like Grazon, you can take care of that. So we see some thistle on their property, and those can be dealt with. And as part of stewards of the land, we feel that's responsibility. So from our perspective, even though our houses aren't right there, because they're not, when you ride up with your horses and you're moving cattle, we are profoundly impacted by seeing two additional houses, not to mention the surface concerns with water. If we wanted to drill a well in the future, for example, for our livestock, we would need to be cognizant of that, and we would work with all the stakeholders to do what's best for Foothills County.
I think staff has a map for us to look at here.
All right, through the chair to the board. There's a lot of pages in your agenda. So page 93 of your agenda package, it's got a land use map. You'll see the applicants starred in red. This gentleman is directly to the northeast on the quarter section to the northeast, which is the big green blob to the northeast. That's the location. And you'll see it on page 90. I think it's 90. Boy, that's hard to read. 99, 98, 97, 96, I think. 96 and 97.
Thank you. That has answered my
Does
question.
that
Thank
answer
you
your
much.
question?
Next is Mr. Bert McLean. Can you hear me? I guess I'm overwhelmed with the technical data that was presented earlier. I think it's 2.5 hours, and I had no idea that this was the nature of this appeal. I heard about this hearing, and I was in London, England, and I flew home yesterday to see if I could have some input. My sons, Connor and Kyle, they have the adjoining quarter section, and my wife and I have another quarter section to the north and another to the northeast. And I'm going to read my presentation. I mean, in the hour and a half or 2 hours, I'm absolutely overwhelmed with all the technical and legal jargon. I don't think that anybody could remember it. And anyway, enough of that. I'm going to read my submission and objection to the Canario subdivision. My wife and I are opposed to the Canario subdivision proposal and their appeal regarding the previous Foothills County rejection. 5 months ago, in the Canario's initial subdivision proposal, it was clear that there were adjacent landowners who had very valid objections to their subdivision. It was also clear at that time that the Canarios did not consult the neighbors and try to understand the concerns. Today, 5 months later, the Canarios are essentially making the same subdivision application, and amazingly, they still have not had meaningful discussions with those people who were opposed to the original subdivision. 5 months ago, Foothills County did not approve the Canario subdivision, and there is no reason why the county should change their original decision. The Canario subdivision should not be approved. Objections. Fragmentation of high-quality agricultural land should not be allowed. The Canario's 20-acre parcel is on the high point of a ridge that is 3 miles long, trending in a north-south orientation, and about 3 miles wide. In his March subdivision presentation, Mr. Canario suggested his land is of very poor quality because it was glaciated. Most of the Foothills County was glaciated at one time. Today, Mr. Canario's 20-acre parcel is surrounded by productive hayland, cropland, and lush pasture. This ridge was settled in the 1890s by Al Munkus. He selected the ridge because it was outstanding ranch land. Today, the land is used extensively in ranching and farming operations. Our family has owned land contiguous to the Canario property for 56 years. We have learned that high-density subdivisions and cattle operations are not usually compatible. When Mr. Canario purchased the property, he should have known that it was high-quality ranch land and not highly prospective subdivision land. Number two, Foothills County has vision to protect pristine areas and the skyline from visual pollution. If the Foothills County allowed 2 lots as proposed, the pristine skyline would be destroyed from our land looking west. The beautiful mountain views would be altered forever. We would likely see 2 new homes, additional barns and shops, and a number of bright night lights.
At the March meeting, Mr. Canario went into great detail to explain why I should not see lights from the house I live in. He didn't understand that I was referring to the Northeast 621 west of 5 quarter section, which is part of our family property, and touching the corner of his proposed subdivision. Preserving a clean skyline as envisioned by the Foothills County will become very important in the years and decades ahead. We are requesting that the Foothills County be firm and not allow subdivision that destroys extraordinary beauty of the skyline views. Number 3, as I previously stated in March, the most devastating risk by far to our property and others is fire. In the last 10 years, there have been 3 major fires on southwest and northwest 621 west of 5. The quarter sections directly north of the Canario's 20 acre. Each fire was put out by the Okotoks Fire Department and other regional fire stations involved. On March 5th, 2016, a fire nearly destroyed our home and ranch property. The Okotoks Fire Department and 30 firefighters and 3 big trucks and a number of fire buggies stopped the fire and saved our ranch and homes. Our family will never forget the horror of seeing the flames racing towards our homes and the feeling that everything you own is going to be destroyed. All of these fires were started by human carelessness. On the west slope of this ridge, there is steep terrain and timber where cattle winter. Fire trucks could not access the terrain. While the houses can be rebuilt, forests such as ours, about 120 acres, would be irreplaceable. Once the wind blows and the fire takes off, the speed at which the fire moves is staggering. Our biggest fear is the safety of our family, which includes 5 grandchildren, and the safety of our livestock and the safety of other neighbors. If it wasn't for the fast reaction of a neighbor who saw the fire and called 911, it is likely that the fire would not have stopped and would have spread to our timber and homes. The Canario subdivision proposal is on exposed land where the wind blows hard. The grassland around the Canario subdivision proposal is lush, and under the right conditions, our fire would spread quickly to the timbered areas where the fire could not be stopped because there would be no access to firefighting equipment. There are subdivisions in the Foothills County that are very well designed to provide easy access to fire trucks and EMS vehicles 365 days of the year. These types of subdivisions should become the gold standard for future subdivisions in the Foothills County. The Canario subdivision proposal is not one of these. In conclusion, I hope that I have clearly explained why the subdivision proposal should be rejected. I also hope that the Canario family understands that my comments are fact-based and not a personal attack. And as I read this, as you can tell, I didn't know this was the nature of this appeal. But I've lived on this ridge for 48 years. I have always tried to work with the MD, and the Canarios have not shown any reason. They've basically done nothing to change their proposal. So why could the rejection be overturned? And all the extraordinary technical and legal data, I mean, it doesn't really mean anything because most of us don't understand it. I certainly don't understand it. So I feel blindsided. And going back to the Canarios, if I heard correctly, $350,000 was offered up to $400,000, and Mr. Canario did not have to put out 1 penny to get $400,000. I hope that it's fairly evident what his motivation is. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Connor McLean is remote.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Barely.
Sorry, you said barely?
Yeah, that's better now.
Okay, just stop me if can't. My name is Connor McLean, and I'm an owner of the offsetting quarter section to the northeast that we've been referring to. In March of 2026, I attended a council meeting, a council hearing objecting to the proposed amendment. At this hearing, I raised concerns regarding proximity to our established agricultural ranching business and concerns surrounding infringement of the natural integrity of the prime agricultural property. My position is unchanged, and I am objecting to the proposed amendment by Mr. and Mrs. Canario. My objection remains focused today on two key points. Point one, agricultural fragmentation. This is a prime agricultural property and has been for over 100 years. My family has preserved and ranched it for more than 50 years. Contiguous neighbors to the east have preserved their place for more than 100 years. Foothills County has significant growth pressures. However, this area remains relatively intact and unique due to the perseverance of historical owners who dedicate efforts to preserve part of our natural heritage. Point two, communication and consultation. At no point in time have Mr. or Mrs. Canario approached me to explain their proposal. I have never met Mr. or Mrs. Canario. I believe it is a common courtesy to meet with neighbors when there is a significant proposal being presented. If Mr. and Mrs. Canario were to approach me, I would ask what research they have initiated with respect to groundwater on this ridge. It's been a big theme today, so I'm very happy about that. I'm a knowledgeable resident, and I have extensive experience in the subsurface evaluations as a geologist with more than 2 decades of experience. Groundwater quantities are variable in the Foothills County, and the top of this ridge is a major concern. Flow regimes differ between the ridge top, where we're talking about today, and the flanks and valleys. Many of the well reports that were identified at the beginning of this meeting were based on wells on the flanks and the base of the ridge, not on the top. And we heard Krista speak about their well going dry. That is a more common observation that we will expect to see on the top of this ridge. So existing neighbors need to be worried about the prospects of potentially 2 new dwellings that are now going to be trying to tap into the same aquifer with that very minimal flow volume. My objection to the proposed amendment includes requesting council board today to encourage the Canarios to present a better plan which fits the agricultural character of the area. An outright denial of the plan is my preference. If this were to occur, the fragmentation of this beautiful agricultural area would be minimized and the risk mitigation to groundwater on the top of this ridge would be better managed. I thank you for your time today.
Thank you. Questions, board? The last person on my list is Ms. Estes. No? You're just observing? Thank you. So this time, we will go to closing comments, and the order will go in as we will start with the municipal rep, then council's rep, then we will hear from the the applicants, appellants, and that would be the extent. After those presentations, if board members need any points clarified, we would take a moment to do that as well. No new information would be introduced in that conclusion. So I would go to the municipal rep for closing comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to defer to Teresa Tripchase.
Over to me. I'm going to add a few things. I'm sorry, it has been a long day. Um, Basically, you see in the topography slides that have been shown that they are showing 1 meter contours. They do clearly illustrate significant slopes in this on this property. I'm not sure how the lot 2 will have a building envelope without providing a slope stability report upfront. So that is one thing that is concerning. Cumulative effects are not that hard to understand. What the board must determine is whether or not the additional built form will put stresses on the community that it cannot support at this time. Such things as additional dwellings, units, suites, wells, septic fields, driveways, that sort of thing. I'm not sure about the dedication of the cul-de-sac. If they're going to dedicate the cul-de-sac, build the cul-de-sac. Don't put that on to the remainder of the taxpayers to build that at a future date. When subdivision applications come into the county, they're required to build the infrastructure. So that is definitely something for sure. The lot at its current size is currently supporting the amount of development it can handle. Adding additional built form is not responsible development. Just because it's country residential doesn't mean that it has to further subdivide. There is a modest amount of subdivision in this quarter section. That's what the growth management strategy allows for. Fire smart, that's a great principle. So is, restricting a building envelope, but a restrictive covenant is not enforceable by the county. Therefore, that would be the responsibility of the landowner, the appellant, to actually enforce that restrictive covenant for 2 lots. The applicant's agent is aware of that. They've argued the opposite for even larger developments, saying that a restrictive covenant, you have to form a community association or a homeowners association in order for that to work. So those kinds of things won't be enforced by the county. That will be the responsibility of the appellant, and how is that going to work? This allows for a myriad of permitted and discretionary uses, including things like home-based businesses, arenas, day homes. The county sees this all the time. These small acreages end up with a lot of infrastructure, as is the appellant's land already has that. They are removing buildings now. The same it goes for animal units. So animal units, the appellant's agent provided 1 animal unit. That is incorrect. These lots would be allowed 3 animal units. Anything between 3 and 9 acres can have 3 animal units. Now, that isn't like 1-to-1. So if they decide to have goats, for instance, that's a 5-to-1 ratio. So they could have 15 goats on this 3 to 4 acres. Same goes for goats, llamas, chickens gets even more, geese get even more. So it's that 3 animal units that you would be looking at as well for this. And let me just see if I had a couple other things here. Yeah, I think that covers off all of the things that I noted as the hearing went along. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Callister, closing comments?
Yeah, my closing comments are pretty much the same as my opening comments were. My concerns personally were the driveways, the slope stability on the driveways. And has been brought up, the possibility of degrading the water aquifers for neighbors. Yeah, that's about the size of it. It's it was the dual driveways, the the use there and why, if it were to be a road dedication, it would be too expensive to do. This is the less expensive way to do it, is to have these two separate driveways. But it just seemed like a very forced application, and that's why it was rejected the very first time.
Thank you. Miss Earhart, it's your team, so this is the last passes, your group.
Yes, thank you to the chair. I'll hand it over to Delilah Miller here.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and board members. Nice to see you all. Thank you for allowing me to speak as part of the landowners team. With respect, Council's decision should be overturned because the refusal does not identify specific evidence showing that this application fails to meet provincial and county requirements. Simply referring to the MDP and other plans citing cumulative effects and land use suitability without tying those concerns to this parcel does not give the board clarity on why the application was refused. This appeal should be based on applicable bylaws, planning rules, evidence, and facts, not resident complaints or political pressure. Neighbors' concerns should be considered, but not replace planning rules. This refusal does not identify any road, servicing, water, septic, access, fire, drainage, agricultural, or other issues. In fact, Public Works had no issues beyond citing rules regarding slopes. This subdivision is an infill already zoned as country residential. It is not fragmentation of farmland. In 2025, Council allowed 2 such infills on skinny 20-acre parcels on Gladys Ridge, and there are many such 20-acre infills in the county. In fact, there is one directly to the north of this parcel. So why not here? It bears repeating that according to Foothills County's GIS department, land in the county is still 91.5% agricultural, while only 5.6% is residential. This is a modest request of 2 additional 5-acre parcels, not a 20-lot subdivision. Allowing reasonable subdivision helps share the tax burden as municipal costs continue to rise. I'm sure you all noticed your recent tax increase. In the early 1980s, Foothills was part of the Calgary Regional Planning Commission. At that time, quarter sections were divided into 8 long, narrow 20-acre parcels, commonly called skinny 20s. Their shape makes it hard to farm, ranch, and subdivide in a practical way. This is one of the reasons that as the former Reeve and councillor, I lobbied hard and successfully removed regional planning, not only for Foothills, but for all rural municipalities in Alberta. Some neighbors are concerned about views, but no one owns the view. A landowner does not have a legal right to preserve the view across another person's private land. Living in the county does not guarantee that nearby open fields will remain unchanged. Concerns about people walking on county roads should also be treated carefully. County roads are transportation corridors, not dedicated walking paths or playgrounds. The existence of children and pedestrians on rural roads cannot, by itself, justify denying a landowner the ability to subdivide. While traffic is a concern, it is often cited to prevent further subdivision, and there should be data to prove those claims, not speculation. Water is subject to rigorous provincial regulations and must be proven before subdivision can occur. The applicant should not be held responsible for fires, shooting, or other incidents that they did not cause. Fire protection, emergency access, and related safety matters can be addressed through the Community Standards Bylaw and RCMP. This should not be a reason for refusal. In closing, Council's refusal, as stated in the official minutes, does not provide clear reasons showing how this specific application fails the MDP 2010, the growth management strategy, or any other plans cited. Similar applications were approved by Council as infill, which contradicts this decision. This proposal is modest and consistent with the surrounding area. Concerns can be managed through subdivision conditions set by your board. I'm grateful we have a quasi-judicial appeal board to provide a sober second thought, and it is my hope that all residents of Foothills County will receive fair and equal treatment. For those reasons, I ask the board to support the appeal. Thank you very much.
And I have a few more comments, more in response to the comments raised throughout the process. So I would first like to reiterate again that this is not fragmentation of high quality agricultural land. There are agricultural parcels adjacent to this land, but this parcel is a country residential parcel. And while it can support livestock, it is not fragmenting agricultural land. With regards to cumulative effects, these need to be outlined and explicitly stated. An effect implies that there's some sort of impact, but if council's decision doesn't refer to what those impacts are, how is a landowner to understand how to mitigate potential impacts if they don't know what these effects are? Referring to cumulative effects as a general catch-all is vague and not based on policy or the realities of the application. Despite that, the application, as we have demonstrated, does not have a negative cumulative impact. So proposing 2 lots in an already fragmented area is actually supported by the SSRP. They specifically direct infill as a way to achieve sustainable and efficient development, and the municipal development plan directs additional subdivision to country residential or fragmented lands. With regards to some of the conversations about communication, so first, in terms of communicating with the Mowers, the Canarios and the Mowers have had multiple conversations together, and it just demonstrates their willingness to have these conversations, even if they didn't arrive at a mutually agreeable solution. But one landowner's sort of perception of the intent of the communication isn't what's important here. It's that they are communicating, and that there was even a willingness to identify building envelopes, and we can continue to work with the applicant or with the landowners of both properties to establish these areas that are suitable for both landowners within reason. With regards to being a restrictive covenant, we would register it on title so that it is on title and it is legal, a legally binding document. We understand that the county can't enforce it, but the intent is for these parcels to be owned by the Canarios, by their neighbors and their family. And so this would be something that would have to continue and be part of the negotiations and conversations between the landowners themselves and land titles. With regards to the slope on the property and the driveways, it is, yes, there are slopes there. It is steep, and it is very typical that a condition of subdivision is a lot grading plan and a slope stability assessment, and we agree to doing that to ensure that this meets the county's standards. That is a normal practice in municipalities, that these are conditions of subdivisions, and it's not a reason to refuse an application to allow them to even get to the point of being able to prove that it's suitable. And I'd like to respond a little bit to the comments about water. We're asking for the same thing as some of the people who were in opposition. We want the chance to prove this water and prove production. And you can only do that through these water well reports and through the Q20s and these drills, the drilling the well and doing the tests. We can't determine if it is absolutely suitable until we have the chance to do those reports, and that's what we are asking. The Mowers have a well on their property that it's based on what they've suggested today is that it was drilled previously, and our understanding is that it was drilled in 2014. I think it's in the reconnaissance report that is in your evidence package as the Laurie Rogers well in 2014. And if that one's not working, they also have the opportunity to drill another well and determine if that one would be suitable. So we are asking for precisely to drill a well and provide the reports to demonstrate suitability for domestic use in the area. I think that covers it. I won't reiterate some of the points that Ms. Miller has provided, only to say that this is a country residential infill development that supports efficient and sustainable use of a country residential parcel in an area that supports this moderate growth. Thank you.
Did the applicants have any closing comments, or have you summed it up for everybody?
Sorry, through the chair, the landowners?
Yes.
Would you like to?
It's not necessary, but.
I think we're okay. Thank you.
Okay. So I now go to the board. Do they have any closing questions, clarifications? Mr. Damon?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I have, I would like to ask of representative of council and representatives of the Development Authority and all the like, if they would like an opportunity to determine and define the cumulative effects of this proposed development. It's been suggested that possibly comments as so far have been vague and the like, and to possibly link it to this specific proposal. All right, thank you.
So I took a drive up there this morning just to have another look at the entrance to the proposed development. What I found there on 96 obviously is a very steep drive up 96th to the end of it, where you get into a bit of a goat trail to go over the hill the rest of the way. Stormwater runoff was apparent on the road. And 96 is obviously a county maintained road. But you could see that there were, rivulets coming down both sides of that road. So the slope there, the stormwater, the slope, I can only imagine will continue down those driveways, being that they're quite a steep slope as well. So they're going to be hard to maintain, I would think, due to water runoff. That would be a cumulative effect. They're going to come down to 96th as well. That water runoff. It remains to be seen what effect drilling another couple wells on that ridge will do. Again, it's yet to be seen, so we don't know if it's going to have an effect on anybody else's wells. I'll leave that sit there, but the water runoff was my one thought that would be a cumulative effect onto 96th from that slope. That's the one thing I,
And I'd add to that that as Mrs. Furnell brought in, the dictionary calls it an effect produced by something happening over a long period of time. Additional driveways, additional wells, additional infrastructure, septic systems, all of that is a cumulative effect. It accumulates over time. Is that something that is supported in this community, or is that something that's supported on this property? That's a cumulative effect. Whether it's defined in our land use bylaw or not, that definition is openly available to anyone that wants to look for that. And I'm sure that most can understand what a cumulative effect is. This is a typical response from township planning. They do bring this up quite frequently. And you may see changes in our municipal development plan or land use bylaw to produce something like that. But currently, that's how the dictionary defines it and what I would see as cumulative effects on this particular application.
I think we can leave it there because it sounds to me like it's not really going anywhere in our discussion at this point. But appreciate you for taking a kick at it. And if there's no other points by the boards, Mr. Taylor.
Mr. Chair, through you. A question to Mr. Callister. It would appear that a critical dependency is proving an adequate supply of water on this ridge. Generally speaking, what is the process for ascertaining the viability of an adequate source of water? If one is taking this as a step at a time, how would you prove the availability of water and at what stage in the process? Could you talk us through that, please?
I can certainly answer that for you. Proof of water is required under the Water Act in this particular instance. How that's provided is through a hydrological report, a Q20 report by a hydrogeologist that actually determines whether it can meet the requirements of the Water Act, meaning that it has 1,250 cubic meters per year, that it doesn't interfere with any other household users, and that there's another management plan for some subdivisions, that not for this one. So there are requirements under that act. So they have to produce that report after drilling the actual well on the property.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything further? Mr. Damon?
Mr. Chairman, I have one more question through you to administration and council. I was wondering during this application, like, was there any discussion of any kind on restrictive covenants and who possibly might be able to facilitate, such a document and all the like? Did you have a bit of a discussion about it?
So Ms. Furnell has told me that there was no restrictions on, or no conversations with regards to restrictive covenants on the title. That's something that was brought up here and was in their submission to you. Restrictive covenants are not enforceable by the county, so we will not enforce them, no matter what. If you put them on there, we will not enforce them. It's not something we will have to do. If they put a restrictive covenant on their titles, they will have to enforce it in some way. So if something goes wrong on the property that's in contravention to their restrictive covenant, the appellant would have to take them civilly to court to rectify that.
Yeah, so now I understand that the landowner would initiate it by caveat or whatever with land titles. Is that what you're looking for?
Yes, they-
You're looking for an outside entity like a land trust or something like that?
No, nothing like that. If you decide that you are going to overturn the decision and you wish to have them impose a restrictive covenant, they would do that through land titles. They would propose a restrictive covenant, put it together and submit it to land titles, but we're not going to review that.
With that, that will bring us to a close. I am going to adjourn our afternoon. The board will convene in private to make a decision. The decision will come out in about 15 days in writing. And if you've got your address here this afternoon when you signed in, then you will get that decision. Thank you all for coming out and your presentations.
Thank you. Have a good day.